What does the breakdown of the rule of law look like in a country? I believe we've seen a bit of a taste of that in the last few weeks with the burning of over a dozen Christian places of worship with apparent impunity, along with the destruction of statues. Today on Don't Talk TV, I'm going to revisit that issue of the rule of law and how crucial it is to a free and democratic society. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Earlier today, I had the pleasure of being interviewed by Maxime Bernier on the Max Bernier Show, so I didn't have as much time as I might otherwise to prepare a video, so I apologize if this video isn't as polished and I don't have as many citations or proofs to back up what I'm saying as I normally would, but everything I talk about is right out there in the mainstream media in this episode, so it should be easy for you to find if you want to see what I'm talking about. A few weeks ago, I recorded an episode about the rule of law where I described how important it is to have fair and just laws and for there to be a restriction on the arbitrary exercise of power by subordinating that power to well-defined and established laws. And as I discussed in that video, one of the keys is equal application of the law. It means that the powerful and those without power are equally subject to the law, the rich and the poor, and also those with the right politics and those with the wrong politics being equally subject to the law. And in my view, as I suggested in the preamble, we've recently seen very clear example of a breakdown of the rule of law. And although this may segue a little bit into politics, I believe it's still firmly within my wheelhouse as a lawyer to look at this because of its impact on that concept of the rule of law, to explain why the people who are burning churches down should still be held to account. The sequence of events leading up to the burning of churches goes back to another video I did where I discussed the discovery of 215 unmarked graves at a Kamloops residential school. Now, at the time, I called for a police investigation to find out what exactly happened, rather than ascribing collective guilt, which is what the media and our politicians, I would respectfully suggest, have been doing. I think it's worth noting that as of today's date, the 7th of July 2021, we still don't know who are the bodies that were found at that school. How long have they been there? Did they die of disease? Were they murdered? Did they die of neglect? We simply don't know, and that underscores the importance of an investigation. So the investigation to find out what actually happened, but also to find out who is to blame and to what extent, versus this collective guilt, essentially saying the Catholic Church is evil, Catholics are evil, and then what happens? What happens is in the last 2 weeks, we've seen over a dozen Christian places of worship burned, most of them Catholic churches. We've seen a large number of other churches defaced with graffiti and vandalism. And now it's the state's response to these incidents that really bears upon the rule of law. Are these acts of clear hatred targeting a specific religious group? Are they treated the same way as other acts of hatred targeting other religious groups or other racial groups? I would suggest that there's a stark difference, and the difference starts with the police, who present as being baffled and not seeing a connection. I haven't seen the word hate used in a police press release or in a media release yet, whereas I think viewers would agree that it's guaranteed that if 12 synagogues burnt down in a 2-week period, or if 12 mosques burnt down in a 14-day period, that the word hate would be all over the media. I mean, consider what was said by Prime Minister Trudeau in the wake of what turned out to be the fabricated allegations of a young girl's hijab being cut off.
We've seen a pattern over the past months of increased hate crimes against religious minorities,
Now keep in mind, those are comments he made after it was revealed that that never happened. Police investigated and determined that that girl was never attacked in the way she described. And that relates back to an incident from January of 2018. Now compare to what our Prime Minister has to say in response to these churches being burnt down.
We shouldn't be lashing out at buildings that can provide solace to some of our fellow citizens, but we should be every day committing ourselves, each and every one of us, to the hard work we need to do.
Christian churches haven't been the only targets of hatred and destruction in the wake of the discoveries in Kamloops. In Manitoba, the same province where Maxime Bernier was arrested for the crime of meeting with a few individuals peacefully to discuss a political message, and also the same province where Premier Pallister was threatening people who dared to gather in any numbers that they would have their license taken away and they would pay their fines, and seemed to undermine their right to a trial. In that same province, a large gathering gathered outside the Legislative Assembly with impunity. No tickets issued for being over limit on that gathering, or not distancing or masking. And they then proceeded to tear down a statue of Queen Victoria and throw paint on it, and then they're posing with it. The police arrested one individual who CBC suggested may have even been a counter-protester, which would make the selective enforcement of law even more stark. That if you're in the act of destroying statues, but you have the right politics, no problem. But if you're trying to stop the destruction of statues, you're going to be arrested and tasered by the police. Now, Winnipeg police have refused to comment on whether that person was a counter-protester or one of the destroyers of the statue, but the fact remains that no one was arrested for that gathering and destruction in a province where a political leader was arrested for trying to spread a political message. So in my view, this is highly, highly concerning that police apparently don't give the same priority to investigating the destruction of Christian churches that they would give to other crimes. That these are not treated as hate crimes, whereas targeting of other religious groups are considered hate crimes. And this is completely independent of whether one identifies with one group or another, whether one likes one group or another. This all comes back to the rule of law and how crucial it is that it needs to be the same law for everyone in order to have a fair and just society. And when we have that breakdown of law, I fear that what we're going to see is only more violence, more dissent, and more hatred rather than less. Whereas if the laws were applied equally across the board, this situation could be very quickly calmed down. This video, of course, is not legal advice. If you have a situation where you need legal advice, call a lawyer. You can call myself or another lawyer. My 1-855 number, address are listed below. If there's any topics you'd like to see me cover, please leave a comment in the comment section below or send me an email. And if you found this video at all interesting and informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing.